In the bed on the north side of the pod, I want to show you an example of raspberries. Raspberries are an example of what's called an aggregate fruit. It's an aggregate fruit because the fruit itself is made up of many smaller fruits connected together, kind of squished together. So if you've had raspberries before, you know there are all kinds of little bumps on the raspberry, and with this immature one, maybe you can see the individual ones. Each individual bump there is a separate fruit, and that fruit then is connected together into this aggregate. By the way, when you take, let me find an example of one I can pull off. Here's one. If we have an example of a fruit like this and it's mature and ready to eat, we can pull it off and you'll see that it was held on to this white inedible tough bit, and that's called a receptacle. And I wanted to mention it because we'll talk about receptacles again when we talk about strawberries. But you can see here, raspberry is an aggregate fruit and it's held onto a receptacle. Now I want to take a look at over here at radish. Radish is an example, like beet that we saw in the class meeting, of a swollen taproot. So we eat the taproot of a radish. And I also wanted to point out how small the stem tissue is on the radish. So here we have, where my finger is, just a little bit of stem at the top of this swollen taproot, and all the leaves are attached to that little space. So the stem of a radish has very, very small internodes. And this little bit of stem tissue that's attached to the top of the root, when it has those really tight internodes, is often called a crown. So crown is kind of a colloquial term for the stem tissue on top of a root.